Hello, Aries friends. Up today is your October 2025 Vedic Astrology forecast plus a bonus tarot reading. We'll see what Exalted Jupiter is going to bring you this month, as well as a look at the full moon and new moon to give a complete picture of how October 2025 astrology is going to unfold for you. If you're new here, welcome to Anastasia Tarot and Vedic Astrology channel, where I help you navigate the cosmic currents and surf the planetary wavelengths with ease and grace. So now let's get into Aries Vedic Astrology and Tarot for October 2025. Chapters are time-stamped in the description, and as always with collective readings, the astrology described is going to depend on your personal chart, so take what aligns and leave the rest behind. This October 2025 Vedic Astrology Jyotish horoscope is for Aries rising, Aries moon, and Aries sun as per your Vedic sidereal astrology. So let's get into it. Okay, Aries, we are going to start your October 2025 horoscope by looking at the full moon on October 6th. And I'm going to preface this video by saying this is the second time I made your video, Aries. I noticed after making your video and several others that there was a discrepancy between what the app on my phone was telling me and what the desktop software was telling me. So I went into this rabbit hole of research, and what I will tell you, Aries, is that in our marvelous, brave new world of AI and apps and all these other wonderful tools that help us with astrology and astronomy, there is no substitute for direct human verification. And the best way to do that, Aries, is eyeballs. Go out in the night sky and look at the moon. Observe what phase it's in. If there are conjunctions, especially of Venus or Jupiter with the moon, you should be able to actually look up at the sky and see that planet close to the moon in the night sky. Now, of course, this is going to depend on your viewing conditions and your location. So, Aries, to get this full moon chart displayed properly, I manually went into the software and checked to make sure. Here we can see the moon is at 19 degrees and it is exactly opposite the sun at 19 degrees. So this is what creates a full moon, is when the moon is exactly opposite the sun. So this chart is showing the exact full moon for California time in the United States. It may change depending on your location. If you are in India, if you're in Europe, if you're in Africa, if you're in Australia, depending where you are in the world, the timings may be slightly different, but I have at least manually input and made sure that we have an accurate chart showing the full moon as the same degree in opposition of the sun. So, Aries, we're starting the month with this full moon in your 12th house. And that can be pretty intense. And you've also got Saturn retrograde in your 12th house. That, of course, is bigger than just October. But I'm also going to just make a quick mention here for my Aries moon friends. Okay, so if you have an Aries moon, you are going through, you're starting your Saresate cycle that would have started in spring of this year. And that is this 7.5-year transit of Saturn over your natal moon. This can be an initiatory experience into Saturn's wisdom. And again, depending on where your natal moon is, this Saturn retrograde means that Saturn could actually run over your moon 3 times, which would give a much more intense Saresate experience. That's not going to happen for every Aries moon. So I will just say to my Aries moon friends, if you're feeling pressurized by this Saresate cycle, book a personal reading so we can really get into your chart and what that Saresate initiation into Saturn's wisdom means for you personally. Okay, so now getting generally into the reading for Aries rising, Aries moon, and Aries sun. We can see with Saturn and moon in your 12th house, this full moon, it could be a great time if you keep a dream journal, pay attention to your dreams around the time of this full moon. And I know Aries introspection isn't really your thing. Aries tends to be, action oriented. Let's go out and do something. But this Saturn going over your 12th house is going to make you a little more introspective for this whole Saturn cycle. It's a 2.5-year cycle. And then especially with this full moon, that's going to intensify that experience. And this full moon is in Revati Nakshatra, which is ruled by Mercury. And we can see here, Aries, that your Lagna Lord, that's Mars, right? Mars rules Aries, so that's your Lagna Lord. And Mars is with Mercury. So you definitely have this Mars-Mercury theme going on for this beginning part of October. And Mars and Mercury are together in your 7th house. So this is definitely going to put your focus on relationships and partnerships. And the classical meaning of the 7th house is, of course, the marital partnership, but it can also apply to business partnerships, professional partnerships, anything of that nature. And with this Mars in the 7th house is a kind of complex activation, because Mars is the warrior planet, but it is in the sign here of Libra, which is the sign of partnership, cooperation. And, Mars as a warrior isn't real big on cooperation unless it's cooperating to defeat the enemy, And by the same token, Mars and Mercury do not necessarily play well together. Mars as a warrior just wants to fight and defeat the enemy, whereas Mercury as a communicator wants to negotiate and, communicate, negotiate. So this is a rather complex activation of your 7th house of relationships. But definitely, Aries, there is a focus on relationships in October. And very much it could be with this Mercury influence, especially with this, double Mercury influence around the time of the full moon. Really think about your communication in relationships. And of course, with Mars here, you do want to be mindful of being, taking that my way or the highway attitude toward your communication in relationships. And this could be an invitation to get clear on your communication with your near and dear ones, whether that's a marital, romantic partnership or a business partnership. This activation of Mars and Mercury together in the 7th house invites you to get clear about your relationship communication and take a lesson from Mercury, Mars, take a lesson from Mercury and Mars being in Libra, Aries. This is a time to think about cooperation. And yes, Mars, you're going to want to set your boundaries, but this really invites cooperation. And for Aries, if you're looking for love, this 7th house activation may bring you some possibilities for partnerships. And again, it could be romantic partnerships or business partnerships, but the 7th house activation does bring that potential. And we see the sun in this beginning part of the month is in your 6th house in Virgo. And so sun in the 6th house, definitely going to put your focus on work in terms of your everyday work and service. And with sun being in Virgo, I know Aries, you're kind of a big picture sort of a person, but with sun in 6th house Virgo, it's really going to support you in looking at the details of things. So you may find that in your work and in your day-to-day life and your sort of daily grind schedule, that you have to be more detail-oriented and a little more analytical than maybe you usually are. 6th house also governs health, and it is catching this it's catching this aspect from Saturn. You can see Saturn and the sun are in mutual aspect here. So again, with Saturn is, right, the disciplinarian planet. It is the karmic taskmaster. So health-wise, Aries, this Saturn influence would really encourage you to create good health habits just in your daily life. And it could just be really small things, maybe working out at the same time every day or making small improvements to your diet. It doesn't have to be, a huge thing. This is just a monthly horoscope, but definitely your daily life is getting some attention here with the sun, both in terms of being detail-oriented with your work and also in terms of being more disciplined about your day-to-day health habits. Now, you've got this really lovely activation, Aries, going on in your 5th house. 5th house is a lucky trine house. And with benefic Venus in your 5th house, this is really just quite nice. And again, if you are looking for love and romance, Venus in the 5th house can support that sort of thing. Of course, it's going to depend on your personal chart and your personal planetary cycles. Now, Venus is with Ketu, and you can see Venus is pretty tightly conjunct Ketu. Venus is at 27, Ketu is at 24, so pretty close. Not an exact conjunction, but it is pretty close. Now, Ketu is always a disruptor. It is the moksha planet. It's not disrupting your life because it's mean or anything. It wants you to achieve spiritual realization. And of course, Ketu is going to be activating your 5th house, it's an 18-month cycle. It's bigger than just October. But this can actually work nicely for you in terms of Aries creatives with this Ketu and Venus activation of your 5th house. You may find that you've got some creative inspiration. Venus is going to make your sense of aesthetics are heightened, balance, aesthetics, beauty. And Ketu can really give some out-of-the-box creative thinking. So you may be inspired to turn your creative projects in new directions. And with Rahu on the 11th house, Rahu does well in the 11th house. This can be a quite nice asterism for speculation, investments, things of that nature. Again, definitely check your personal chart and your, financial advisors or whatever. But there is a possibility, depending on your personal chart, that there are gains from, speculation, investment. And again, this could be, if you're creative, working on spec. Doing, writing a book or creating some artistic project that you are hoping to sell in the future. Now, for Aries with children, this is again a nice activation. Ketu, there may be some, disruptions or, just some strange things might be happening with your kids. But Venus really works with Ketu to support spiritual love and unconditional love. So you may find in your relationships with your children, Aries, if, you may have some real breakthroughs during this first part of October where you're able to deal with some conflicts with your children in more, unconditional love and, kind of have some breakthroughs to get to a new level with that. Now, you've got Jupiter is continuing in your third house, a nice activation of your third house. Jupiter here is going to just add a luck factor or a feel-good factor to your relationships with your neighbors, your siblings, especially younger siblings. So Jupiter is a nice activation for the third house. It supports your motivation and it supports just, we talked about the sun in the sixth house as putting a focus on being detail oriented in your day-to-day, your daily grind at work. And this Jupiter in the third house adds a little bit of grace and, benefic influence to your day-to-day communications. Okay, so now we're going to fast forward and look at the new moon for October 20th, 2025. Okay, Aries, so I know I've been saying the new moon is on October 20th, but actually when I input the data by hand, manually, it is happening on October 21st, at least in Ventura, California. It's happening on October 21st. And again, you can see here what creates the new moon. It is created officially, by the numbers. The new moon is created when the moon and the sun are at exactly the same degree. They're exactly conjunct. So we can see on October 21st, right around sunset because, right around sunrise, because for new moon, we like to look at a sunrise chart. So we can see that the sun and moon are conjunct in your seventh house in Chitra. And Chitra is a Mars-ruled nakshatra. And of course, Mars is your Lagna Lord. So this latter part of October is really continuing this activation of your seventh house. So Aries, this whole month of October really is putting emphasis on your relationships, and with Mercury here, definitely your communication in relationships. Now, let me check the dates here. So we've got this interesting thing going on, Parivartana Yoga, from October 8th through the 24th. And so from October 8th to the 24th, we have Venus is in Virgo, which is Mercury's sign. And Mercury is in Libra, which is Venus's sign. So this is quite a nice elevation for your charisma, your communication. And now Venus doesn't really like being in Virgo. You know, Virgo's the Virgin and Venus is the planet of love and sexuality. So Venus is not particularly happy being in Virgo, and Venus is not particularly happy being in the 6th house either. You know, 6th house is this, you know, house of the daily grind, as it were, and Venus, you know, wants to enjoy life. However, some of these difficult aspects of Venus are being lessened and being elevated by this Parivartana yoga between Venus and Mercury. And so this is also activating, this Parivartana yoga is activating this connection between your 6th house and your 7th house. So again, your communication with your coworkers is that's gonna get a boost from Venus. And it's all about relationships, you know, whether it's your day-to-day daily grind at work or whether it's in, you know, romantic or business partnerships. There's a lot going on for you, Aries, with communication in your relationships. Now, the other really nice thing that you've got going on, Aries, from October 18th to the 31st, is we have exalted Jupiter, right? Jupiter is here in Cancer, which is exalted, and it's happening in your 4th house. This is creating a Hamsa yoga. So this Hamsa yoga just kind of elevates your experience from this October 18th to October 31st. Jupiter in the 4th house is quite nice. What is 4th house? That's home, mother, vehicles. So if your mother's still with us with Jupiter on the 4th house, you may be enjoying good relations with your mom. And just generally speaking, Jupiter on the 4th house is going to support your home life. You may find more enjoyment with your near and dear ones in your home life. Really quite a nice activation. And again, depending on your personal life and your personal chart, for Aries, if you're involved in real estate, you know, if that's your business, this Jupiter in the 4th house is definitely going to support real estate business for some Aries. If that's in your lifestyle. So all in all, Aries, we can see that October is really putting an emphasis on your relationships, and with Saturn in the 12th house and especially retrograde, it may be churning up some, you know, relationship issues, you know, patterns from the past, and you know, some karmic do-overs even, and Saturn's definitely going to support your day-to-day discipline by this aspect to your 6th house. And whether that's discipline in terms of, you know, keeping to your daily schedule at work, keeping to your daily self-care, good health habits, and or also, you know, speaking of self-care, you know, daily meditation, prayer, whatever your spiritual practices are. So you are getting support from Saturn for that. And just a nice elevation for your communication in your day-to-day life, both at work and in your relationships. So Aries, that's going to wrap it up for your Vedic astrology reading for October 2025. And we're going to get into your tarot reading next. Hello, Aries friends. Let's get into your October 2025 tarot reading. Okay, Aries, I'm going to pick 3 cards and we'll look at tarot guidance on those 3 cards, and then we'll do your numerology. Okay, Aries, first up we have the Ace of Swords, and we have the Nine of Wands, and the Queen of Swords. So Aries, first of all, with this Ace of Swords, this is activating the mind. And, you know, I'm looking at your chart, and this full month of October, your Lagna Lord, your ruling planet Mars, is with Mercury, and Mercury is a really mental planet. So this Ace of Swords really speaks to coming into a new cycle of thinking, Aries. And again, with the toward the later part of the month, there's that wonderful Hamsa Yoga with Exalted Jupiter in your 4th house and all of this 7th house activation. This is going to support you in having some breakthroughs, Aries, in some new ways of thinking. And your Lagna Lord can be debilitated in Libra, but in your case, Aries, this can actually be one of your greatest lessons, is again, letting go of some of that, you know, warrior, my way or the highway kind of stubbornness. Of course, you know, that's part of your beauty, Aries, but this is a particular moment of time where you have this planetary support to go more into your mind and into these mercurial qualities of cooperation and negotiation. So for some Aries, this is going to be a really new way of being and relating. And this Ace of Swords can really bring some mental clarity for you. Now, with this Nine of Wands, Wands is the fire, and 9, if you watched my video from the beginning of 2025, 2025 is a 9 year. So it is Mars number in Vedic astrology. Mars is number 9 in Vedic astrology. And just generally speaking, 9 very much speaks to completion. Now, 9 has to do with your willpower, your vision for your life. So this 9 in your element of fire really works with 2025 being a 9 year, and looking over at your chart, and, you know, looking over at your chart with Saturn, the karmic taskmaster, being in your 12th house. So especially for Aries moon, who's, you know, starting your Sade Sate, but also generally speaking, all the Aries moon, rising, and sun. This is a year of completion for you. Some of your visions and plans for your life, this is a time to draw them to completion, dot all your I's, cross all your T's, complete unfinished business, and, you know, release anything that you need to release. This 12th house activation is really working with this 9 of Wands as supporting your process of completing unfinished business. Now, with Queen of Swords, for some Aries, this is going to be an actual woman. And with all of this 7th house activation, again, I'm kind of glancing over at your chart. So with all of this 7th house activation and, you know, Exalted Jupiter in your 4th house, This could be an actual woman that you're dealing with. For Aries who are looking for love, there could be a Queen of Swords woman coming into your life. So this would be a woman who's, kind of no nonsense, clever, intelligent, no nonsense sort of a woman. For some Aries, she can, this can be a new woman coming into your life with all that seventh house activation. And for other Aries, this could be a woman who's already in your life, with the fourth house activation, possibly the mother. So if she's, a woman who's external to you, Aries, this is a woman who's going to play a key role in how your October unfolds. Now, if that doesn't hit for you, it may not hit for all Aries. If that doesn't hit for you, what is Queen of Swords for your internal, your internal parts, your internal personality? This very much, she works with the Ace of Swords. So Aries, this is a time of not only new thinking and new ways of thinking and new clarity in your thinking, it's also a time to manage your thinking. And again, whether you do that through yoga practices or, for some Aries, it could be physical practices, yoga, walking, meditations, martial arts practice. But this Queen of Swords on an interior level is really inviting you, Aries, to manage your thoughts, manage how you think, manage how you communicate. Aries, you have that, spontaneous, wide open heart on your sleeve. And, this is, of course, a lovely, lovely quality. I love that about you, Aries. But what's going on now with Mars, your Lagna Lord, in Libra's sign, and with this, mental mercurial planet, at this moment of time, the planetary energies are really inviting you to manage your mind and your thought process and really develop some new ways of thinking that are going to lead to your mental clarity. There may be releasing old ways of thinking with this, 9 vibe you've got going on. It can be releasing old ways of thinking that no longer work for you. And so through managing your thoughts, managing your communication, managing how you set boundaries, this is a really lovely combination with the Queen of Swords and the Ace of Swords. Okay, so now we're going to do your numerology. We're not going to count the Queen in your numerology. She's not a number card, but we have 1 and 9 together makes 10, of course. And 10 in the major arcana is the Wheel of Fortune. So this is really a lovely, lovely card for you, Aries. Wheel of Fortune is Jupiter's trump. It's a great benefic, and Jupiter is exalted in your 4th house. So for Aries in general, this Wheel of Fortune card can really speak to good vibes around your home life. This 4th house relates to home, mother, vehicles, right? So good vibes around your home life. For Aries who are involved in real estate, or Aries that are maybe shopping for a new car, new vehicle, new car, new boat. If you are looking for a new vehicle, this Wheel of Fortune with exalted Jupiter in your 4th house definitely supports success in real estate, if that's your business. For Aries that work at home, really some nice support for that. And then for you know, Aries, if you have been having any conflict with your mom, maybe this Queen of Swords is your mom. If you have been having any conflict with your mom, this Wheel of Fortune really speaks to starting a new cycle and, you know, maybe some better communication or a new cycle of favorable relationship with your mom. And then also for Aries who are looking for love, Wheel of Fortune can definitely, if you've been going through a dry spell romantically, Wheel of Fortune can speak to that changing. You know, Wheel of Fortune is, you know, the wheel of karma is turning, and it's a lovely benefic card, and it works nicely, right? 10 also relates to 1. So this is the wheel of karma is turning. There's a new cycle beginning for you with more mental clarity. And Aries, wishing you a wonderful October. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. And wishing you the blessings of good health, peace, and prosperity for October. Namaste.